Tonight, new racists, new danger. We expose their evil plans to change the face of Britain.
To see that on the lamppost strikes fear into your niggers and your packies.
Deep undercover, we pose as friends of men who want to destabilise and destroy Britain's multiracial society. Their blueprint for Britain remained a secret until now, as the Cook Report reveals the truth behind the front.
They wanted to wipe out mixed-race children, and they wanted to start with mine.
From this seedy Birmingham flat, we mounted a carefully planned undercover operation which was to last for 8 months. One of our team took on the identity of a former French foreign legionnaire working for the Front National's pan-European movement. Another became a disgruntled British soldier wanting to do his bit for the British National Front. Target number 1, Nick Griffin, aged 38, dedicated racist and the focus of our investigation. He wants to be the friendly-faced leader of a new, modern racist movement.
Box, clever. That's what they're scared of.
We conned Griffin into handing over a 5-year plan to revolutionise the extreme right. Then we confronted him.
You're a lowlife. You're all lowlives, you know that.
Target number 2, Wayne Ashcroft. Only 19, but a leading National Front official. Talent spotted by Griffin to be his number 2 in the new organisation. We conned him into believing we were his trusted friends. We were even at his side as he fought the last election. Target number 3, Griffin's intellectual sidekick, Dr. Mark Devin. We expose how he planned to bring down a rival political party. Target number 4, far-right hardman Rob Wild, ex-National Front, ex-Combat 18, now a founding member of the British Ku Klux Klan. These are key players in Griffin's master plan. He wants Dr. Devin's help to produce inflammatory racist literature. Ashcroft is there to pull in the National Front, and when necessary, more violent support through men like Wild. Combat 18 at work on the streets. Police action and internal splits have reduced Combat 18's prominence. Hardliners are being recruited into the KKK. Griffin, though recognising the need for muscle, plans to keep it at a discreet distance from his political front.
It would keep happy and involved and focused a group of people who we don't want close to us for electoral reasons, skinheads, the big boots and so on, but who nevertheless we need.
Griffin's ultimate aim is to replace both the National Front and the British National Party. His new party would appear mainstream, modern, and even democratic by comparison.
I think the real danger about Mr. Griffin is that he appears to be so respectable and straightforward and public-spirited, and therefore may attract other people who may also be totally respectable but naive enough to buy his horrendous political agenda.
Behold the fiery cross, still breathing.
Birmingham, Alabama, home of the notorious Ku Klux Klan, the most infamous racist group in existence. Their images and secretive ways are an inspiration for racists worldwide. Birmingham, England. A secret camera films the British Ku Klux Klan, formed just 6 years ago. It now has 5 major regional centres and has effectively replaced Combat 18. The KKK's preferred weapons are fear and intimidation. The mother of mixed-race children and the target of a 3-year hate campaign, this woman knows that all too well.
I had paint stripper thrown over my car. I had SWAT stickers all over my car as well. I actually had my children being threatened because they wanted to get rid of mixed-race children and they wanted to start with mine. Well, I didn't know who they were. I mean, they signed themselves as Combat 18, as the White Wolves. It's only recently I found out that they are a member of the Ku Klux Klan, or they're very closely linked with them.
We split our undercover team into 2 units. The first was to infiltrate the National Front. The plan worked. 4 weeks on and the NF had a new member and we had a man reporting from the inside.
On the 17th, I received National Front membership, wrote another letter offering my services. The 3rd week, I received a letter with a phone number for Wayne Ashcroft. He turned out to be the Midlands organiser. Tried to phone Wayne, no joy. Eventually got through, arranged first meeting at the Prince of Wales pub at 1700 hours.
At first, Ashcroft was reticent. It took us 8 weeks to gain his confidence.
Vote National Front. No more masks. Vote National Front.
By April and the run-up to the election, we were deep inside the network of the new racists. Unknown to Wayne Ashcroft, it was the Cook Report that was riding shotgun on his disastrous election bandwagon. We even organised a bogus TV crew to interview him on the campaign trail.
Our enemies, our political opponents, are frightened because they know perfectly well that the majority of people in this country agree with the National Front.
But it was back at our undercover flat, while preparing the election campaign, that Ashcroft revealed his real manifesto.
That's the name. To see that on a lamppost strikes fear into your niggers and your packies.
And that is also part of Griffin's real manifesto. But his electoral ambitions are only a means to a sinister end. Right now, he needs money to bankroll his plans and revitalise the extreme right. He wants over £100,000 just to get started. We lured him to this plush country hotel.
Nick, how you going?
Nick Griffin's wish is about to come true, or so he thinks. Here he's meeting some top brass from the extreme right-wing French party, the Front National, men who will bankroll his plans. In fact, they're another Cook Report undercover team, and Griffin is about to star in a French farce.
The extent to which I'm involved with the BNP is known only by very few folk, very few people indeed.
If the Front National forms a government, then the very fact of the name National Front in this country will have a huge credibility boost. I know one of the main people in it. There is a possibility, if things went right in this country, I think that we could amalgamate with them, which would be a major advantage. Whether it's called the BNP or possibly the British National Front, which would be a superb amalgamation, that's irrelevant and it's our problem, not yours.
From November 1996 to April 97, we conned Griffin into attending no less than 34 meetings. He was so taken in, he even handed us a secret plan to harness right-wing violence without being seen to.
It was decided, right, we need muscle. We will turn these thugs into political thugs. Didn't work. It was disaster, basically. If you want political thugs, you have to take political people and turn them at the right time into thugs.
This was a crucial part of Griffin's 5-year plan to rebuild racist politics and destabilise British society. And he wanted the Cook Report's fictitious French backers to foot the bill. It was the evidence we wanted, but to get it, we had to overcome early suspicions.
Before we met, I thought, well, this could well be Searchlight, our anti-fascist magazine. It could be the British television, it could be the Mossad, it could be the British intelligence service, it could be all sorts of different people. No one from the other side could sit in a room for 3 hours and talk as we talked.
The French connection was vital to Griffin, because in parts of the beautiful South, Griffin's dream for Britain has already become a nightmare. The racists have taken control. In the picturesque town of Orange, the mayor, Jacques Bompard, has blocked the traditional right of councillors to perform marriage ceremonies. Effectively, this means that mixed-race couples like Jean-Marie Pointet and his North African fiancée are forced to leave town to be married.
For anyone who knows a little about the history of the Front National or the extreme right in general, this has come as no great surprise.
For opposition councillor Line Séguré and former resistance fighter Lucien Dupost, the Front National's actions had more sinister resonances.
People don't realise what they're following. It's not so much that we're moving towards Nazism, we're up to our necks in it. Here in Orange, we're living under a real Nazi regime. If it extends, it will be just like a new Hitler era. I can't see much difference between Le Pen and Hitler.
A disturbing echo of the Nazi book burning of the past is to be found in the recent goings-on at the town's library.
They're trying to remove certain books from the libraries, and they have effectively cut the education budget.
The popularity of Jean-Marie Le Pen in France is Griffin's inspiration in Britain, a fact which deeply concerns the committee set up by the European Parliament to monitor extremists.
They are preparing themselves with training videos, with training programs on intimidation, on political violence, to emulate what's happened in France, what's happened in Germany, what's happened in Austria and elsewhere.
And in 10 years, the Front National of France has gone from being a minor pressure group to being probably the future government.
The station clock stopped at 10:25 as a massive explosion ripped through the central railway station, sending showers of splintered wood, masonry and glass for hundreds of yards.
Griffin's long association with European fascism began after the Bologna bombing, in which 82 people died. Later in London, Griffin teamed up with Roberto Fiore, still wanted today by the Italians for membership of the fascist outfit which carried out the bombing. During that time, as a National Front youth organizer, Griffin began to refine his convincing, affable style. Now, with Labour overwhelmingly back in power and promising to toughen up the race laws, Griffin is working to engineer a right-wing backlash. This was his theme at January's annual conference of the British National Party. It was held behind closed doors, but he invited his new French allies and, unwittingly, our cameras.
And they call it multiculturalism, they call it love, they call it respect for others. I'll tell you what it is, it's genocide, and we're the victims.
A month after his first meeting with his hoped-for French backers, Griffin made a written submission for funds and began to tell us everything. He told us how he wanted to take over the lucrative underground racist music industry and pour the money into his new party's coffers.
The crucial thing is that a CD of a popular band costs 10 francs to produce, but it sells, what, 120 francs?
He also wants to invade Europe through the airwaves with his own racist station, Radio White Europe.
There's dozens of bands, hundreds of followers, they have trouble getting halls and this sort of thing. It's a very big operation, and it's open to us.
And then, most sinister of all, Griffin revealed his plan for an army of street thugs. He asked us to set up training camps under the guise of legitimate martial arts centres.
The simplest way to put it is a European Martial Arts Association, something separated from the party. It's a cover organisation.
Griffin's aims and those of the British Ku Klux Klan are remarkably similar. Both are vehemently racist and anti-Semitic. Both are disillusioned with their current leadership. Both are trying to forge links in Europe. And both have used the National Front as a launch pad. Look at the banner on the back wall, Combat 18. It makes the crucial link between that ailing organisation and the Ku Klux Klan, which is replacing it. Beneath one of the sinister hoods is none other than Rob Wilde himself. At the Cenotaph last Remembrance Day, the National Front holds its own parade. Marching side by side, the Front's Wayne Ashcroft and the Klan's Rob Wilde. A rare moment when the public face of the National Front is seen mixing with more shadowy figures. Back on the campaign trail in April, we were with Wayne Ashcroft and his candidate on the way to a humiliating election defeat.
That is the key paragraph. That is why we're called Nazis, fascists.
On April the 15th, we were at the home of the National Front's chairman, John Macaulay, to finalise plans and collect the election manifesto. At one strategy meeting in a West Midlands pub, Ashcroft introduces his parliamentary candidate, Alan Humphreys. Ashcroft also let slip that he's in close contact with Griffin.
Yeah, but who was that meeting with? Was it your own people?
Nick Griffin at the BNP.
Yeah. So, if you were talking to him fairly sort of regular, you know...
Well, we are in close contact.
Back at our seedy flat, Ashcroft went into greater detail.
They're all after the top job. They all want to be the main Führer, the main dictator. Griffin will take over. You reckon? We'll see what. It'll be Tyndall who gets the chop. They'll suddenly find out I'm the deputy chairman. That'll shock them.
Come election night, the voters delivered their verdict on Humphrey's racism.
Alan Howard Humphreys, 465.
And Ashcroft delivered his defiant response.
A message to Mr. Winning from the National Front. Today he wins the battle, but tomorrow the NF will win the war. Thank you.
After 8 months, we had a complete dossier on the far right's new path to power. We knew the truth behind the front, and it was time to put a stop to the plan.
I want to talk to you about your plans to amalgamate the BNP and the NF.
Yes.
And how do you propose to achieve this? You had a letter from Nick Griffin, didn't you?
That's correct, yes, yes.
And you would stoop to any methods to achieve your ends?
Oh, it's not a question of stoop to any methods. The National Front is a legitimate political organisation.
And you're somebody who would, to use your words, gas niggers?
No.
We filmed you saying so.
Send them back. Gas them.
We have pictures of you holding up NF posters saying, "This'll scare the packies and the niggers."
Oh, I don't think you have, Mr. Cook.
I have.
To see that on a lamppost strikes fear into your niggers and your packies.
Wayne's answers, while he still had them, seemed to come from a world of his own. Another dinner party with Nick Griffin. This time he wants us to meet his closest intellectual soulmate, Dr. Mark Devin. Another crucial element in the Griffin plan was about to unravel.
Nick is basically the leader in waiting of the BNP. What we need from you is experience, knowledge and financial.
When he's not plotting racism with Nick Griffin, Dr. Devin is a university lecturer, widely regarded as an exceptional academic with a glittering career ahead of him. This anti-Semitic brochure attacking prominent Jewish members of the media was written by Griffin, but it was Devin who provided the research on all the individuals. While supporting Griffin, Devin remained a member of the non-racist UK Independence Party, well placed to destroy a possible rival for right-wing votes.
Mark could have a job in their office tomorrow, working on their membership files.
Dr. Alan Sked, leader of the UK Independence Party, had believed that Devin was a close political ally. He could barely believe what we'd uncovered.
Well, it's shattering because it's not only a political betrayal, but it's an academic betrayal, it's a personal betrayal. I was his academic supervisor. I was writing references to get him jobs in universities. I tried to get him a British Academy Fellowship. I was trying to get him into my own department at the London School of Economics. I mean, I cannot think how I could have been more bitterly betrayed on practically any level.
As a direct result of our disclosures, Devin lost his new job with a leading British university. The tables had been turned. Devin too had believed we were French sympathisers, ready to fund more of his anti-Semitic research into key Jewish figures and more of Griffin's racist writings. Griffin's poisonous pen has a history of causing outrage. His former MP, Liberal Democrat Alex Carlile, had even called in the police and tried to have him prosecuted.
These are not normal, rational people we're talking about. These are people with bizarre notions. These are dangerous political cranks.
Griffin still seethes.
And this bloody Jew, whose only claim to fame is that two of his grandparents died in the Holocaust, he can say, oh, go and kick their doors down.
Jerry Gable, editor of the anti-fascist magazine Searchlight, has been monitoring Griffin for years.
You've got people now like Nick Griffin, who are Cambridge graduates, who are widely travelled, have contacts in all sorts of very sinister organisations around the world, militias in America, the Gaddafi regime in Libya. So they're something for the 21st century.
Leading human rights lawyer Michael Mansfield QC believes the government must act decisively to tighten legislation and encourage prosecution.
I don't think the legislation is, as it stands, good enough, because there is a proviso tucked away in the middle of it all. So whilst you may be able to prosecute anything that's done in public, there are equally, I think, outrageous things done in private. So I think it needs to take away the bit about the private dwelling place, so that wherever this kind of material is being put into place, there should be the right to prosecute.
Griffin's 5-year plan was in tatters. The game was up, and he knew it. I'd like to discuss with you your secret. Oh, really? Isn't that really clever?
It's not a secret, is it? Yeah, I'm going to do it.
What about your secret agenda for this country? What about your wishing to take power by the boot?
No.
What about your...
Through the ballot box.
You also say the Holocaust didn't happen, don't you?
What do you mean by the Holocaust?
The massacre of millions of Jews.
There's no doubt that hundreds,
and you would
probably thousands of Jews were shot to death in Eastern Europe because they were rightly or wrongly seen as communists or potential partisans or partisan supporters. That was awful. But this nonsense about gas chambers is exposed as a total lie.
You're quite happy to foment racial tension in society.
No,
to get
racial
people
tension
fighting.
exists because people like you have created and encouraged a multiracial society.
What do you want to do, send them all home?
Yes.
You would force them to go whether they want to go or not, whether they were born here or not, wouldn't
Ultimately,
you?
yes.
It's to be hoped that this will be Griffin's walk into political oblivion.
You're a lowlife. You're all lowlives, you know that.
But without tighter anti-racist legislation, his period in the wilderness may not be nearly long enough.